Is the Ice Barrel 500 worth the extra $300 it costs? Well, here's the thing. I've had the original Ice Barrel 400 since September of 2022, and I recently upgraded to the brand new Ice Barrel 500, which features a fully insulated body and lid filled with polyurethane foam, connections for hooking up a chiller, if that's what you want to do, and integrated steps for easy entry. So in this video, I'll share with you whether or not I think the Ice Barrel 500 is worth the money. Let's start with something simple, and that is delivery and setup. So much like all of the other Ice Barrel sends the product using FedEx. So FedEx comes, drops it off in your driveway, and that means it's your responsibility to move the barrel then to where you want to set it up. In our case, that's our backyard. And with the Ice Barrel 400, the original one, it was fairly easy. I could lift it myself or use a hand truck. With the Ice Barrel 500, it's an even bulkier box because the Ice Barrel 500 is larger in size, has a larger footprint. And so you definitely need help or a hand truck or something of that nature to move that barrel from where FedEx dropped it off to the position where you want to have it. Now, our packet is already relatively full with saunas and cold plunges simply because of, all the reviewing and stuff that I do. And so there wasn't a whole lot of room, but I found a spot right smack in the middle between our infrared sauna and our steam sauna. And that's where I wanted to position the Ice Barrel. Also because I figured if I wanted to hook up a chiller, which was the plan eventually, I could hide the chiller behind one of the saunas and then just have it hooked up on the back and it would all look neat and clean. But there was one thing I didn't take into account, is the way the Ice Barrel is designed. When you step into the barrel and sit down, you're facing away from the steps, which is perfectly fine. In our particular case, however, it meant I would face the brick wall, because that's what our saunas back up to. And turning around within the barrel is possible, but not super convenient because of that integrated texturized seat that also doubles as a step on the inside. So keep that in mind when you decide how and where to position the barrel, that, when you step in and sit down, that's the direction you're going to face. Unlike in the round barrel in the original Ice Barrel 400, we can simply turn around and look in either direction. Didn't really matter, regardless of where the step stool was. You're kind of limited as far as your view is concerned with the new Ice Barrel 500. So keep that in mind. Number two, arguably one of the most important factors and features is the performance. In other words, how long does the Ice Barrel 500 stay cool? How long does it keep the water cold? And to be perfectly honest, based on my experience with the Ice Barrel 400, I didn't have high hopes for the 500's capability to keep the water cold for extended periods without adding ice daily. That's what I've gotten used to with the old barrel. Every time I wanted to take a cold plunge, I need 120 pounds of ice, So what I did is for my test, and keep in mind, as of this recording here, we are in April in Georgia. It does get warm during the day in the upper 70s, but it's not as hot as in summer yet. But what I did for my test is I pre-chilled the Ice Barrel to 55 degrees Fahrenheit using a chiller from one of the other plunges that I have. And then I turned the chiller off. I added 7 pounds of ice using that block ice. I got some of the molds that Ice Barrel sells as well, because I figured it's much more economic and easier than running to Walmart and getting 120 or 140 pounds of ice. So I got 3 of those molds, filled them with water, had them in the freezer overnight, and added those in total 21 pounds of ice in the form of block ice into the barrel, and just let it, cool down a little bit. And I would really wanted to know how long does it take for the ice to melt, right? And not unsurprisingly, the ice was gone within a couple of hours. So I'm like, okay, it's the same as with the old one, where the water just doesn't stay cold. But then to my surprise, the water in the barrel remained at roughly 50 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 days without adding any ice, and obviously without turning on the chiller. So every day I would come down and I would look at the thermometer and it was still at 50. I'm like, is there maybe something wrong with the thermometer? Why doesn't the water temperature change? And I touched the water, I'm like, nope, it still feels fairly cold, And after the 4th day, then I decided to stop the experiment and turn the chiller back on, just to keep the water moving and, keep it clean and filtered and sanitary. But I have no doubt, at least now here in April, that the Ice Barrel 500 would have kept the water at 50 degrees for even more days, for even longer. Now, here's the thing. to maintaining 50 degrees Fahrenheit is probably easier, depending on the ambient temperature, of course, than maintaining 37 degrees, right? So I don't think it would have kept the water at 37 degrees for the same length. And I also think that in high summer, once we hit, the high 90s potentially, or even over 100 degrees here in Georgia, with direct sun exposure, the performance would have probably been not quite as good. But still, compared to the Ice Barrel 400, the 500 blows the old one out of the water as far as the cooling or performance is concerned, at keeping the water at a certain temperature. So I was super surprised, and that's really one of the best features of the new Ice Barrel 500, to have that fully insulated body and lid that keeps everything on the inside at a certain temperature for extended periods. So thumbs up to the engineers of Ice Barrel to make that insulation in a way that really performs incredibly well. Number 2, or number 3 now in the list, is size, dimensions, and ergonomics. So one of the downsides of the new Ice Barrel 500 is that it's relatively spacious. Now you might say, well, but that's an advantage. It is, but it's also a disadvantage depending on how much space you have to set up your cold plunge. And just, for comparison, the older Ice Barrel 400, the original one, the real barrel one, requires approximately 5.5 square feet of space, whereas the new Ice Barrel 500 requires 12.5 feet. So it's more than double the size, the space requirements that you have. Now, with that, you get integrated step stool. So that's definitely an advantage, because it makes getting in and out of the barrel incredibly easy. Even our kids, use the barrel by themselves. They jump in almost every day now. They really love it. Stepping up the stairs, getting in, and then having the integrated step on the inside that makes it easy for them to also get out of the barrel. Same goes with my wife. She is not the tallest one. And with the old barrel, it was kind of it required some acrobatics, to lift your feet over the barrel and get inside, and then the same when you try to get outside. And especially if you have mobility issues or maybe an injury. In fact, actually I tore, or at least strained, some of my abs not too long ago. And when I did the testing for the Ice Barrel 500, I had no issues getting in and out, despite my, I couldn't flex my abs. With the old Ice Barrel, where I would have, really had to engage my abs to get my legs over and in, I would have not been able to do that. So, that's definitely an advantage, but the disadvantage is it requires more space. You need a larger footprint to where to position the barrel. So in terms of ergonomics, I already mentioned it initially. While it's easy to get in and out, the way you get in and sit down is the way you'll face, So that's not only a potential issue from, what you want to see, but also turning around in the barrel and facing the other side. Let's say you have someone, who wants to talk you through your first ice bath or whatever, and there is no way for them to get to the back. It's going to be a challenge. I tried it. I turned around within the Ice Barrel and faced the other side, because I wanted to take a picture facing the backyard, or, showing the view of our backyard. And it was doable, but it was tight. Also because, on the other side is that integrated step. And that means you have less leg room if you face the steps that you use to get into the barrel. So it's a little bit clumsy, it's a little bit difficult. The other thing, and that's even a bigger factor, maybe not for everyone, but I certainly notice it, is I usually try to submerge my head, so my entire body, when I first get into a cold plunge. And in a regular tub design, even the barrel design of the Ice Barrel 400, it's relatively easy. You get in and you squat all the way down and your head is submerged, or at least your face, and you're good to go. With the 500, you cannot scoot down low enough because it's not deep enough. It's relatively shallow, so you cannot submerge your head. At least not, I'm 6 feet tall. With my height, I can't do that. The only thing I can do is basically hinge forward and get my face into the water like that. That's okay too, but it's a little bit more cumbersome, I want to say, than just being able to scoot all the way down and submerge your head, So that's something, to keep in mind, and something that I wish the Ice Barrel would have taken into account, and maybe come up with a slightly different design that makes it easier to face either direction. Maybe skip the step on the inside, I don't know, or make it a little bit deeper, so you can accommodate for that. But either way, that's something that one of the downsides of the new barrel design. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, I mentioned it initially, the new Ice Barrel costs approximately $300 more than both the Ice Barrel 300 and the 400. The 400 is the original one I know that the numbering is a little bit confusing as well, because the 400 is the first product in the lineup, and as well as the 300, which is the second version that they came out with, that's also fully insulated and can be hooked up to a chiller, but it's significantly has a smaller footprint. So it's not quite as big and doesn't have the volume on the inside as both of the other ones. In fact, funny enough, and that's something I didn't expect, is the Ice Barrel 400, so the original one, the real barrel design, has the largest volume, can have the most water compared to both the 300 as well as the 500. I thought the 500 would have more water volume, but that's just a side note. So pricing wise, the Ice Barrel 500 costs $1,500, so $1,499.99 is the list price. Again, that's $300 more than the other two ones. I would say that based on what you get in terms of performance, so the fully insulated body and lid, the chiller connections, the integrated step stools, which make it easy to get in and out, I think the price is worth it. I think it's warranted to cost more. Simply, just from a materials perspective, it requires significantly more material because it's bigger. The body is much bigger thanks to the integrated step stools and the insulation. It makes sense that it costs more. I think it's worth the extra money just for the convenience and the performance, even though there are some issues that, I think Ice Barrel might be able to iron out in a new model. But if you want to give the Ice Barrel 500 a try, you can use code MCUMRA at checkout. That gives you $150 off or discount. So check that out. The other thing that I would recommend for you is to consider getting the maintenance kit with your new Ice Barrel. That comes with non-toxic water treatment options. It comes with something to get all the debris out. It comes with a little brush to scrub the inside. It basically helps you to keep the Ice Barrel clean and sanitary and to make maintaining it a breeze. So I would recommend doing that. It also comes with a thermometer, so you know exactly how cold your water is. So that's something I would get if you decide to give the Ice Barrel a try. Now, one more thing I want to talk about before we go to the final verdict is the chiller hookup. As I mentioned already, the Ice Barrel 500 comes with all of the connections to hook up a chiller. Specifically, it has built-in 3/4 inch NPT connections with 14 threads per inch. That's important because depending on what chiller you get, Ice Barrel now has its own chiller for pre-sale or pre-order, so you can order that and it's just going to connect, obviously. But if you use a third-party chiller, or if you get one on Amazon or whatever, I use the TheraFrost chiller that I have to hook it up to the Ice Barrel. I had to get an adapter, basically, that makes sure the threads match, so it has the right thread distance, basically. The threads per inch need to be the same one, as well as the two hoses that I had from our chiller were all females, and the Ice Barrel only had one male and one female, so I had to get another adapter. That cost a few dollars. Just make sure you get the right size, the 3/4 inch NPT, as well as the right thread count. And if you do that, it's super easy to hook up the chiller. I've been running our Ice Barrel 500 with a chiller ever since. It's a breeze. It works really well. Keeps the water not only clean, but obviously then also at the desired temperature for extended periods. In our case, we've set the Ice Barrel to 55 degrees because that's what our kids, as well as my wife, prefer. My cold plunge, on the other hand, is set to colder temperature because I've been used to cold plunging and I like it a little bit colder than the wife and the kids. Now, overall, I was very impressed with the Ice Barrel 500, and the kids and the wife absolutely love it. In fact, my wife tried cold plunging once 3 years or so ago at 39 degrees. She got in, freaked out, never tried it again. Now that we had the Ice Barrel 500, I told her, hey, we're going to set it up to 50-ish, 55 degrees for you. Try it out again. She did. She loved it. Now she's doing it several times a week. The kids absolutely love it, which to me was even more surprising because they are, they're skinny kids. They don't have a whole lot of body fat to insulate them. And our 10-year-old stayed in the Ice Barrel all the way up to her neck for 5 minutes at 55 degrees. I was super impressed by that, and she likes it. Both kids really like to, replicate what mom and dad are doing. Monkey see, monkey do, and they love it. I love it as well. I really like how easy it is to get in and out. I find it super comfortable to sit upright in a cold plunge rather than lying back. I've said this many times before. That's really one of the advantages. Again, if you're injured, if you have mobility issues, using those integrated steps makes it a breeze. Everyone can get in and out. And so that's my take on the Ice Barrel. The insulation, that's one of the best additions in comparison to the original Ice Barrel. keeps the water cold for days in a row without you having to add ice or connect the chiller. If you want to connect the chiller, it's super easy. Just make sure you get the right adapters. The standout feature of the 500 is really the usability. You know, those steps make it super easy to get in and out. It's a little bit bulkier. It needs more square footage, but I think ultimately it's worth the trade-off. The only downside, or the two downside, if you will, is the shallower depth make it more difficult to submerge your head. You know, not impossible if you use some acrobatics, but it's certainly not as easy as with the old barrel. And that's it. Have you tried the ice barrel? Any of the ice barrels? Let me know in the comments how you liked it, how you liked this video. If you did like the video, subscribe, stick around, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.